of Arsenal. Like this injury stuff needs to be addressed. What we do in January, if we don't do in January, actual points of concern in the 90 minutes and actually at this season so far. And then obviously keeping a bit of perspective because it is 2 losses. Now, smash the like button, people. Draw your points in and stuff. But this is a weird one, man. So I don't really know why I'm stalling, if I'm honest. But yeah, man, don't fold is what I would say. But yeah, hope you're doing well on this Sunday. Let's begin, people. Because it's a therapy session thing at this moment or for this segment, man. And above all, I know I create content and I'm a man of the people. I'm there to serve you lot. But if nothing more, I just need to get these things off my chest. Now, the first thing I want to say is the obvious. We obviously lost against Aston Villa. They nicknamed the villains and they firmly did that yesterday. Halftime, we just edged it in what statistically is a close game. And I'll say this, we're very lucky that we didn't concede more than 2 goals. And, boys, you should have scored more than a single goal. There were moments. Goals always change games. There were moments especially in and around when we got the equaliser and a little period after that where it could have went in the right direction for us. Again, let's have it right. There's several things we can talk about and we're going to talk about. But from the manager, shout out you for the halftime subs. But from the gaffer to the players, it weren't good enough. Isolated to those 90 minutes, it wasn't. You know what time it is with Aston Villa's form, with what Emre's about, with the individual qualities of their players, the games that Arsenal and Aston Villa have played, how difficult it is to play at their ground. The most you can do is put your best foot forward. We didn't do that. Not winning enough individual battles, not having the quality on the ball. Every player panicking. And it's weird because there was moments where it was weird panicking, but I understood it. Anyone that's played Sunday League, moments where you've got quality players, even Timber and Rice, if I'm honest, 2 of the better players again, people. But when like someone might just hoof the ball, clear it because they're clearing out their lines and it's mannicking the box. Nobody's talking and letting the person know you've actually got time. So you have to get back to basics, man. The 2 goals were poor. Absolutely poor. The only good thing we did is start the second half relatively decent, obviously grab the goal and the little period, and we could do the half, the glass is half full, half empty type of thing. But the goal we can see the disappointing from one side of the pitch to the other. Eze not following his runners, and it's not just Eze alone. Poor sequences. The last goal, scrappy, shoddy defending. Shout out Timber, he tried, but from a footballing sense, he died yesterday. We did. For Aston Villa, bigged them up. There were moments in the game where they don't give you a second to breathe. Obviously, they kept going towards the end. And obviously, that's what actually is a bit of pill to swallow in that. I can't say we didn't deserve to lose, so I can't say I'm surprised, but it's the moments of which they got the goals, like just under 10 minutes for the first goal before half time. Last minute, last ball being kicked in a game, people. Away from home, we can't afford to do this, which, again, people, you look at the statistics, Aston Villa rose to the occasion. We had 15 shots, they had 14. We had 8 on target, they had 7. It's not how many chances you make, it's the ones you take. And away from home, we haven't always done that. I do feel in the last few games away from home, we've not been good. And I don't even mean this in a disrespectful way. We just have not played to the standards. We have not defended our boxes efficiently and effectively as we could over a course of 90 minutes. Possessions in our favor were 53 to 47%. Passes, we had 439, they had 394. So nothing in that. Really, in terms of yellow cards, weren't nothing in it. We got the 2. They had a clean performance and there were 6 corners. I can't lie, we ain't been corner boy. We're still corner boys in the building. Smash the like button, but we ain't been corner boy in a minute. So yeah, we just wasn't good enough. To which I thought, let me make some notes, people. The Eze left wing thing for Odegaard, it didn't bang. Now, I do think people are being very disingenuous with Martin Odegaard's performance yesterday and his need to be in the team. I do think some people are hypocritical because Arsenal fans, we don't need to lie right now. And again, we're not gassing up Eze or Odegaard, but we don't need to lie. Eze's been doing all right in his Arsenal career, leading into the North London derby. Some would say, Eze's a left winger. This is why Odegaard's in the team. You knew this was the angle he was going to get, primarily both of them in the team. We know when Odegaard got injured against West Ham, ironically started with Odegaard and Eze together in more central positions, and Zubimendi was on the bench for Rice. You're not going to see that too many times. So in theory, I'm not against it, but it didn't bang. It didn't bang. Just starting Odegaard, and hindsight's a wonderful thing. Starting Odegaard, it didn't bang. He weren't as dead as people making out, but it didn't bang. And again, Eze, I do have sympathy because I do call you a Swiss Army knife. You can play all across the number of positions and do quite well. You definitely could have played better from the left-hand side. My thing is, I do sit here and say to you, lot, from the 10-game mark onwards, now the season started, and I think sometimes you have to box smart. As I said, putting Odegaard in that central role and Eze, that might not necessarily be the worst way of going about things. But isolated to the moment we're in, I do think it is. Eze's in a sweet little bit of form. He got his hat-trick. He did well against Bayern. We're getting a lot of injuries and we're already having to move parts anyway. So the ones that are banging, keep them in. I don't think it was the game for that. Again, in hindsight, Mikel Marino with Mikel Arteta, I'm not gonna lie, it's a good tool to have, and we can box cleverly with it, but we can't make it the one fit, one fits all kind of approach, which I think we did. Like, let's have it right. Take nothing away from our boys and take nothing away from what Aston Villa and Emery and all the coaches do. But as much as we can talk about tactics and why it was won or lost, that was a typical British game. 12:30 kickoff. It's who wants it. It's kind of end to end. It's one of those things. Odegaard in that game might not be the best person to necessarily start. Marino might not give you enough going forward. And I do find it annoying because it's like we more play to a striker's strengths when Marino, who's doing a great job through the middle, but isn't a striker. What I mean by that is putting balls in areas that if you are a striker, especially an Arsenal striker, you want to get on the end of type of thing, people. It's like when Gyökeres comes on the pitch, that's not a thing. And we are getting into that weird scenario because of where we're at in the season, because of the injuries, because of us having to put more minutes in the legs of other players. You're in that weird conundrum now where we lost, and it's not tiredness, but you can see certain men are knackered. Certain people need to get minutes to get the ring rust out. It's a bad kind of cocktail at this moment in time, people. And as you can see, maybe in brackets, like the players all making basic mistakes, panicking, no communication, not defending well enough on the road. If I'm brutally honest, now, to be honest, let's have it right. Maybe you could say some European games and Newcastle away general performance, but purely the goal we conceded, you could add it into what I'm about to say. Let's have it right. We ain't been good enough on the road. I don't care if we've won or whatever. Like, obviously, we've been faultless in certain places, but was it last season or the season before? We were very good away from home. And I just think you've got to have those standards. And where I look at Sunderland, potentially, I think you get the job done when you're 15 minutes away from getting 3 points. I think if that's played at the Emirates, but it wasn't. It was at the Stadium of Light, give or take, whatever you got to say in the game, we're 15 minutes away. And we're meant to be one of the best defensive sides in Europe. You've got to go and get that through. It's never disappointing to beat Manchester United, but not again, start of the season tax. But we were happy with the result, not necessarily the performance. Liverpool, we weren't the worst. It's more, in my opinion, on Arteta being a bit proactive, but the performance wasn't quite there. Liverpool away. Chelsea, worst performance in a hot moment, give or take, with this Aston Villa one, many would say, again, away from home. So again, I need my boys and the gaffer. Got to start getting it right on the road, man, a lot more now, man, because it does feel like these kind of conversations are said when we're going away from home, and that was something we was very good at. It is the first loss in 17, 18 games, people, again, so we can't panic, but it is more about kind of frustration for what we're seeing, a bit of deja vu. You are thinking about minutes in the legs now, like how... I don't know for this point now. I don't know, because Trossard's obviously battled back from injury, did his thing, ironically, whenever he's been called upon, came off the bench. Is he injured again? I don't know. I don't know. Is he injured again? Or I struggle to imagine that was a tactical kind of reason. So it's kind of that landscape, man. I'm not going to lie, Hincapié and Timber, the whole team was a shambles. But that looked like a centre-half partnerships that never played together. One person stepping and getting higher up the field, one person playing people on side. There were moments we could have and should have, and another day probably would have conceded with those Aston Villa half chances. Like, if my memory serves me correctly, I'm sure Ollie Watkins in the first half had a good effort, man. As I said there, man, it's not our approach ain't quite been there on the road. So, yeah, man, we'll get into player ratings in just a sec, but yeah, I just need to get that off my chest, mate. Now I'm kind of over it. We focus on Club Brugge and so on and so forth, man. Smash the like button if you have not already, people. What else have we got? Can we just calm down? It's December and we've lost 2 games. We do need to calm down, but then we need to be harsh on like the evident improvements. Like me, I don't want to sit here naturally and talk about Arsenal in this kind of light, but we all saw what happened yesterday. SJ, appreciate you, my boy. Appreciate you. New injuries. Hope not, man, apart from Trossard, which obviously we hope these boys are all right. And again, minutes in the legs for certain others. Like Hincapié just got it. But he's arrived with a Grennock. So I'm looking at him and, Mascara as well. Obviously, he's gone. And I'm no physio. It's above my pay grade. But on one hand, the players that, if we had a lot of fitness and stuff like that and Saliba never picked up knocks, potentially wouldn't have seen Mascara this much or would have seen him in a different light. So obviously you're kind of happy that players get an opportunity. I'm sure the players do. But then when you do come out from the cold and you ain't been in the season like that, I wonder, like, when you take players off the bench and you give them 3, 4, 5 games, like, do you run the risk of indirectly injuring them? Not necessarily Arsenal specific, but just the nature of the game. The amount of people losing their heads on social media is embarrassing. Now I see why people dislike us. Embarrassing. Rightly, wrongly, I feel like I'm preaching to the dead. But I told you this would happen this season. Every win is amazing. Every L is horrible. And again, I'm not talking for the balanced fans that we win, but we got out of jail there. We lose and we was actually good. Like, you get where I'm going with that. But you saw how we knew going into this season, like the good and bad about the transfer window, how the managers viewed Arsenal finishing second. Everybody saw how the world, let alone Arsenal fans, reacted when we lost the North London derby in pre-season. So you knew going into this season it was going to be mad. A few games ago, obviously we beat Bayern Munich. Can we win multiple trophies? Now you are, City. They could do a thing. This is going to be a season of inconsistency. I personally believe and been maintaining for anyone that's going to win this Premier League or a challenger per se. Aston Villa at this moment in time, you could make a case that they're involved. Chelsea fans try to play it down, but they got into the conversation. City have been into the conversation. Liverpool have been in and gone out. Arsenal have been so away from it and stuff like that. So I do think this is one that's going to run into late April, May. I don't think anyone's going to run away with it, but we have to get our act together, man. But yeah, man. You put mentality checking the title to bait me, didn't you? No, I didn't, man, to be fair. But like some Arsenal fans have to question their own mentality. Whether we win the league, lose the league, whatever, like people need to calm down. Like there's certain things we need to be harsh about, but like all this shouting and carrying on, it's not gonna help anyone. And I'm not saying be positive for the sake of it. There are concerns, as we just have spoken about in these first 12 minutes. The injuries, maybe needing to rotate, shades of last season, the fine margins, a bit of a mind games, because you are thinking, what if we obviously what happened against Aston Villa and all the times we dropped points didn't happen. But then you also sit there and think, do you know what? At least you've given yourself a platform. That is your first loss in 17 odd games. The lead point, the points gap has been cut to 2 points, but you're still in those kind of conversations. So yeah, it just needs to be better. And it does feel like it is the same old feelings. I am starting to think January can't come soon enough. Couldn't tell you what players, where these players are from, or how it be formulated. But surely with the way it's going, positions, I don't know. But with the way things are going, surely, Bert or Mikel Arteta, the Cronkies, even in a loan capacity, have to dip into the market. Ain't back to reality for me. And yes, do you know what? Like, the title and exaggeration, but like, I think I can only speak for people on this platform. Like, whether we win, lose, or draw, we've kind of considered all the variables. There's a lot of football to be playing, but we got to remember, man, City do have that clicking into gear. I know it's not the same City, but we've seen them click into gear. Chelsea and Aston Villa, if they keep doing what they're doing, you never know what could happen. And I do feel, forget all the other teams. This is genuinely what I feel. I feel before we look at all the other teams, I think our biggest enemies or best friends this year could be ourselves, because we do have that element of shooting ourselves in the foot, unfortunately. Anthony, big up yourself, my guy. DG, Saka should be dropped, needs to rest. Rice, Odegaard to be stripped. Goes to guard because he can't cope with challenges, keeps pulling out of them. He does pee me off when he pulls out 50-50s, but he's not the guy for that. I mean, allow Odegaard, man. Allow him. Saka, it's weird, man. I just think he's been indifferent. Like, even but Saka, comparing Saka to Saka, the Saka I'm seeing right now is very frustrating in comparison to the other one, because the other one was just, I've clocked the pattern, what to do on this pitch, I'm gone. It's just indifferent. There's some good, there's some bad, there's some boy, big up DG. Arteta got it wrong, in my opinion. Mourinho did all but 0 in the first half. If Gyökeres is fit, he starts. That's, again, it's above my pay grade, and the gaffer's got his way of doing about things, but it's weird for me with Gyökeres, man. It's weird. It's really weird for me with Gyökeres, because if I just look at as a just normal football fan, not trying to understand anything, it feels, you would think Mourinho is the new summer signing in terms of the striker, because he's getting fed more service. There's more clear-cut chances. There's more kind of aspects of him being in the box or box crashing situations. Doesn't feel like that with Gyökeres. Now, obviously, yesterday, rightly or wrongly, Gyökeres has come off the bench, so the game state is very different. But I do think we're in that weird mix where, the Rices, the Timbers, maybe the Sakas, like, they do look a bit spent, or generally players look a bit spent. Then you're looking at Gyökeres, he's not really getting minutes like that, so you need to shake off ring rust. And ultimately, the team, different reasons, but you throw them together, they're a bit rusty. But saying that, we do have a platform. It's what we do from this. I would say, yes, Arsenal win the league, even though I don't believe it, because I want to use up as much delusion I have left. Man, we're still in a fight, man. May 2026 parade settings, man. Also, bear in mind, DG, we are playing the most informed Villa team. They were either second or third when we played them. Think how many of those we've had this season already. We have had a difficult start. What I would say is everyone's got to play everyone twice, but the way it's panned out for us, on one hand, we kind of get the more difficult games out the window, but form fluctuates. The teams that you think on paper right now is a walk in the park, they might be in a run of games, and you're not wrong with the form, because that is something else to bear in mind. Like, we're never happy to drop points and do this victim thing or anything of that ilk here. But when we have dropped points, it's not really been shock results sort of thing, respectfully. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, fair enough, we drew with Sunderland, but they're in a great moment of form, doing very, and as they are still now, drew against Liverpool as well. They're in a good bit of form. Aston Villa's form speaks for itself. People are talking about Chelsea being a title challenge and whatnot. Bearing in mind, they like to say it, so I'm going to use it to fit my agenda. Champions of the world, type of thing. Who else is there? Liverpool Premier League holders, very shameless. They're worse now than when we played them, but very shameless. But you get the point in it. We're losing to those kind of teams, but at the same time, nothing in life comes easy. Everybody plays everybody twice in the Premier League. In the same way, they have beaten us or whatever happens, or they believe that they could challenge us. We should believe we could do that. And if you want to win into leagues like this, obviously it can pan out different, but you do need to step to these difficult away games and get results, whether they're not necessarily difficult away games on paper, but Arsenal's kind of bogey teams, or you need to be able to go City away. In fact, off the bat, Arsenal, I'm not going to lie, shameless, bare emotion behind this, but I need to win at the Etihad now. I need to win at the Etihad. I want 3 points at the Etihad. I wanted it in there against Liverpool at Anfield. Fair enough, it didn't happen. I've been crying for years, specifically Chelsea away, because I just feel we kind of played this in the last 3 years. We've kind of played the same way that we played there. Never got that. Fair enough. Big up the team. Called for that, Newcastle. You did what needed to be done. Brownie points. You need to win at the Etihad now, just to stroke my football club's ego. But you have to be able to go them places and win. I know mathematically you cannot win at these grounds, but if we stop the nerdy stuff, this is what should be expected. You know what Aston Villa and what Emre are on. You know about their players. Even if I'm being a bit silly, and I'm not trying to say it's just Eze, and mistakes happen. But bro, Matty Cash is one of the better attacking fullbacks in the Premier League. And I don't know what you lot was doing in training. That's your man. And you're not alone, but just to paint a picture, you can't let these things happen, especially for Eze, because when you deep it, even when he scored a hat-trick, busting his ass to drop backwards for our team and do his defensive aspect. So it's about those things and winning those duels and doing better in those moments ultimately in these games that gets you over the line. And on one hand, we need to calm down. But on the other hand, but the people that don't necessarily believe in the gaffer and the team's ability, it's not necessarily, I'm not talking for people that effing and blinding, but it's not necessarily without fault. And you can't prove them wrong until you do it. So right now, you sit, you hold that Aston Villa L, you take the good, the bad, the ugly of what's happened this season and just move forward. But make sure there's a parade in May. You've got 4 opportunities. Ideally, in my head, there's 2 I want to see any of them, but there's 2 I'd really like to see. Obviously, Premier League and Champs. You've got 4 opportunities. If you end silverware, and as much as I don't necessarily agree with all the points and the nitpicking and the out of context shouting about the team and things, people, I do try and bear this in mind in life. You might think they're chatting shit, but until you prove them wrong, they're right. Some of you will get that, some of you won't. So just have to move, man. JD, appreciate you. Maybe back to reality. For those living in the Arteta emotional fantasy, some of us knew what time it was from day dot and heard this morning Mikel is fast tracking 29 back into the squad at all costs. Again, I'm no physio. I don't know what's going on. But naturally, Arsenal, you need to look into what's going on with the players not being fit, getting injuries, whether it's on the field, whether it's impact, whether it's muscular, whether this one's got an injury because he come back, whether it was a shock one, the rehab, I don't know, man. Because as a fan, just with a fan cap on, Kai Havertz has had 2 big injuries in 2025. Gabriel Magalhaes the same. And there's probably some others in between. So there is some, again, at this moment, there's things just we need to do better collectively. The most disappointing thing about the game was the lack of aggression. Too nice. Big up yourself, Lion. Like up the ting, people. Bless Sunday. We know how this ends. Berta dragging Arteta out of London Coley by ankles, kicking and screaming. Listen, hopefully we win silverware, and that's not the thing, man. But we just have to sit with this defeat, move on to Club Brugge. Because I tell you what, we know we're going through in the next round of the Champions League. But again, losing and winning can be infectious. Some people like to say this is a shock and whatnot. You can part this off and go on a run now. Bearing in mind the loss against Aston Villa, this kind of filters into stuff. So yeah, and Club Brugge, I tell you for free, they don't care. That's a different. They've done very well in the Champs. Do you think they give a crap about Arsenal at this moment in time? We're going to their place, so people need to not feel sorry for themselves. And even with the gaffer, you don't know my thoughts on rotation for rotation's sake and things of that ilk. You lot been tuned in. I appreciate you lot. Subscribe and smash the like button, but we need to, by hook or by crook, I won't be mad if the strongest team goes out there against Wolves, because you can say what you want about Wolves. We need 3 points in it. We've dropped some in the last recent games. I am looking at the Wolves game and actually Club Brugge, you might have to Norgard. There's a start there. We're gonna have to be very clever. And Mikel Arteta, this is where you earn your pay packet, man, because you've got to navigate, as we've been knowing, this period of fixtures and get out of it. And when I say navigate, I mean 3 points. I mean whatever happens in the game, there might be games we need to be a bit more braver in attack, games we need to be a bit more conservative defensively. Get 3 points. How you juggle the playing squad, those returning, and all of the things in between. This is the real part of the season now, man. I was happy to see Odegaard taking a shot. Wasn't his best game, but that's what we've been calling for. You know what? Odegaard's best shots actually always get saved, because I fancied it. When he let it off. You're talking about the Emmy Martinez save. I thought, oh, we might do it here. Wasn't to be, man. Need more from our star attackers. We won't win the league unless someone steps up. Being clinical takes some pressure off the defense. Exactly. Attack not really clicking. Injuries. Set piece FC ain't saved us in a minute. Whether we've won, lost, or drawn. Individual moments of brilliance have maintained us and got us through, or individual moments in a 90-minute game. Now it's about getting to those high levels on a consistent basis, man. This Odegaard protection agenda needs to end. Bro, I just like Martin Odegaard, and I feel there's a lot of healthy criticism around Martin Odegaard, around, him being injured, around Martin Odegaard, around Mikel Arteta. Forget Martin Odegaard, his deployment of him and starting him and stuff. But some of you do too much, and I maintain that. You lot acting like he's playing absolutely dog garbage. I wouldn't have given Martin Odegaard the captaincy. I don't think yesterday was necessarily a game for Martin Odegaard. So I share all of that. But when it starts to go to the realm, it's really not. I'm not with that. Even with Brentford, if it was 1-0, it was 1-0 for a long time. But Madueke is no better than Wanyeri out there. If he doesn't get as much GA as him, then serious questions need to be asked about the signing. I hear it. And to be fair, Matt Noni, as I keep saying, the only thing I think you need is goals in it, because you get into those areas. I don't know. Again, you're a footballer, and you might as well something different. Your effort with your right peg, what was you doing? And as you can see throughout this 20-odd minutes, I've name dropped almost half the team in certain scenarios. So the collectively, we ain't done well enough. Like, I don't know what, when it fell to your right peg, I don't know why you did what you did there. Football's decided in both boxes, man. And if nothing more, even when you stink out the joint, because let's have it right, 38 games, there is a couple of those games we'll look back in May and say, yeah, we were fucking shit there. Man United will be there. We were fucking shit there, but we grabbed the 3 points. We got out of there. In terms of winning the title, I know you can't go back in time and inform side, but Sunderland, best example. Whatever's happening in that game, you're 15 minutes away. You're 15 minutes away from coming home. Good, bad, and the ugly. You could, you're 1-1 against Aston Villa in the 90th minute in a difficult game, in a difficult ground. You got to come out of there with something. Unfortunately, you didn't. So these are the standards we need to look at, man. These are the fine margins. Football's decided that in both boxes, and I feel, especially from home, away from home, might have done decent in the 90 minutes or not as bad as we're making out, but haven't effectively and efficiently defended or attacked in the realm and the way you need to, really. CS, appreciate you. Nathan, the same. Smash the like button. If you thought you were upset yesterday losing to Villa again, just wait until April. You ain't even got to wait till April. We got them in December, lad. But nah, get back. We're going to get back. Arteta sexual narrative, unbeaten in 18 games for today. Reality narrative, 7 points dropped in the last 5 league matches. That makes or breaks difference, or winning or losing. Balance Gooner's perspective and narrative, which I think this sums up my channel perfectly. And yeah, we didn't lose in 18 games. When it's all said and done, we could have been better in a couple of games and whatnot, but we're doing what needs to be done. We'd rather that than it could be a lot worse. Bringing in the other side, like you said, if you're looking at it in a fine margins thing, you recognize that, you can't win every game and things happen. But when you see the manner at these moments and contexts of games and you're living them in the motion, you do look at it like potentially 7 points dropped. Or if, we somehow finish second and that's the period we look at, you have to. But it's in the middle, man. No trophy again this season. When is this fan base going to wake up? We might not. We probably not. My thing is, we probably might not. My thing is, when we don't do it, then we consider that. Right now in a fight, everything's to be played for. I'm not on just doing this victim thing. And I can't lie, I think we do win a trophy in May. I actually do think we win a trophy in May. If we don't, boy, questions and everything in between. TG, what I don't understand is why is at no point Timber and White change roles. Matson had too much space to run into at times. Timber would have dealt with that. I did think about that, but then clearly, from a centre-half perspective, rightly or wrongly, Mikel Arteta clearly believes Hincapié and Timber are better individual options at centre-half, or better as a partnership than Ben White. I hear it. But I don't know, man. And even around White, again, because he'll relish the minutes, because in an ideal world, you'd still be on the bench because we wouldn't have to people would be fit. But he's just come back from a big injury, and you're having to play a lot of minutes week in, week out now. So even that, we're gonna have to box very cleverly. Like, we can't buy attackers' fitness at the moment. And defensively, it's like at one point it felt like, because this thing has developed really. At one point, it felt like it was just our attackers, and it was a bit weird. Them like corner boys in the building point of the season. Then this infection just spread to our defensive ranks. We're gonna have to just get on with it. Come on, man. Like Bumpy has said, smash that like button. Players better go again. Don't feel sorry for themselves. Not the time for that. Got no choice. Because if you feel sorry for yourself in December, then what are you going to do from now till May then? Big up, Shacks. I thought so. Timber has been the best right back this year. Why move him? All this carrying on. I like that, DG. Some folks just throw their toys out the pram. Like, geez, let it play out a bit more. I hear it. We've only lost 2 games, yes. But Villa lost just 1 more than us, and this is the same Villa that was in trouble, and Emre had his job on the line. So with that context, only losing 2 ain't a flex. But then I go back to the 10-game mark from game week 10 to now, and how it plays out is where the season starts. Because as you just said there, obviously at some point people are saying Villa are in trouble, they're going to get sacked, Emre needs to go. They're probably in title shouts now. The narratives around Liverpool have changed. The narratives around prior, like getting to the 10-game mark, actually, where you think about Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester United, half of these teams individually, and then looked at the table at that point. Some team like Man United are point, maybe even still now, are above Liverpool, etc., etc. And you obviously had Sunderland and Bournemouth flying. You're seeing a bit of normalization. We were winning games, no shots on target. Sometimes we was doing well, 9 times out of 10 we were earning the right, but there were several games where we weren't quite at it, but it's business as usual. So, when it rains, it pours. You can't be disappointed that we've got another loss on the board. We've dropped some points because there was times, certain games this season, they could have been draws, but we've nicked it. So you get a bit of that normalization type of thing. Sunderland as well. But main thing, the season starts now. Salah name dropping Cara was crazy. We'll get on to that, but I find it's mad in it. And as a Liverpool fan, it's just not what you need in it, really and truly. Just players doing all of that. Charlie's though. Saka is frustrating, yes, but he's still producing goals and assists in what I would describe as his toughest period as a player so far. We can't ignore the fact that strikers don't bang in Arteta's system. It don't, but unless you've got some world-class number 9 and 2 machines right wing and left wing, which I berate our players, but we don't have, you've got to make it work. End of the day, you sign the striker. I know people want to talk about this false 9 bullshit with Sesko and all that, but at the end of the day, we needed someone, when you strip it back, that can play up front, do that system stuff, but you are able to put the ball in the back of the net more than the existing players. So if you did sign Sesko, because that's what a lot of people believe, like, oh yeah, Sesko would have been the one, you still need to create for the guy. Because the defeat was last scarf, it hurts psychologically more than a normal loss. It damages confidence. Need a midfielder in January, probably that Mendoza guy, but is he experienced enough? These guys also ruined our 2023-24 season when we lost 2-0 to them. Zubimendi was ish again. Allow him, man. Allow him. But yeah, he does need to do better. Eze isn't on the hook for the first goal. Where's Calafiori? Why is Eze in the left back row? I think you got that one wrong though, because you've tucked in. Naturally, you're tucking in. Like naturally, you're tucking in. The fullback's not going to mark the fullback. The fullback's going to mark the winger, and the winger in the defensive situation is going to mark the fullback. When Arsenal press, Aston Villa had solutions, and Aston Villa solved Arsenal's press. Obviously, owing to the current landscape and players we've got available, Arsenal had no choice but to adapt their press. We placed 2 people in the first line as usual, which is typically our front 2 attackers or the nearest ones to the ball. Obviously, Mikel Merino in this game started to move to the left. He did start wider and then began to press inwards people. So from out to in, Eze slightly dropped further back defensively as a result, as we tried to find that balance with him in phases, providing width for being an inside forward, but also being centrally in all phases of play. Simply, again, when Merino pressed, apologies, it helped to force the ball central, where obviously you had Rice and Odegaard jumping on Villa's double pivot immediately. Zubimendi then handled the number 10 people, which would have been Telemans or the creative attacker. In support, you did see Bakayo aggressively jump from the right wing. We started very high to also help funnel the ball centrally, as shown. And then there's only really one response to this, in which Villa began to play simply over the press with their backline. Emi Martinez kicking the ball longer. The John McGinns and Morgan Rogers people, who initially set up as wide midfielders, moved inside to compete for the longer balls. Actually, them causing manic in the second half against us from wide positions harmed us as well. But it also showed they're on the shoulders of their teammates and the opposition, which would have been Arsenal, ready for any flick-ons or second balls. Obviously, there's going to be gaps. Saka and Marino were still high because they're pressing as Arsenal's first line. The away side were happy to leave 3 versus 3 in the back line, with Ben White stepping out of defence in order to support Saka higher up the field. So we kind of gambled 1v1. Arteta will have plenty of food for thought because the fullbacks from Aston Villa also played well to our detriment. Both teams began to advance their fullbacks. Villa actually created spells of attacking play as they capitalized on second balls, people. Matty Cash and Ian Matson were central to that. They created attacking width. John McGinn, as discussed earlier, was moving inside to support the midfielders of Aston Villa in building and creating play centrally. Then you've got Telemans, who's very cultured, finding clever spaces between the lines. And you could say the same for Morgan Rogers. And when you kind of look at our opener, people, that's what happened. You know, we're obviously being narrow to keep our back line. Eze switched off. We've not done well from initially the other side of the field. And that's why we ended up where we ended up, folks. And then obviously Arsenal did do the same, but it weren't to the same standard, people, in the sense of Arsenal deployed significant attacking rotations in the first half with Calafiori and Benjamin White. You obviously saw Marino dropping into midfield, Odegaard and Rice having a sense of a license to both drop and roam further forward. Zubamendi looked to split the two centre-backs to build as a trio, and you did have Saka and Eze holding that half space. Arteta will have plenty of food for thought because the fullbacks from Aston Villa also played well to our detriment. Both teams began to advance their fullbacks. Villa actually created spells of attacking play as they capitalized on second balls, people. Matty Cash and Ian Matson were central to that. They created attacking width. John McGinn, as discussed earlier, was moving inside to support the midfielders of Aston Villa in building and creating play centrally. Then you've got Telemans, who's very cultured, finding clever spaces between the lines. And you could say the same for Morgan Rogers. And when you kind of look at our opener, people, that's what happened. You know, we're obviously being narrow to keep our back line. Eze switched off. We've not done well from initially the other side of the field. And that's why we ended up where we ended up, folks. And then obviously Arsenal did do the same, but it weren't to the same standard, people, in the sense of Arsenal deployed significant attacking rotations in the first half with Calafiori and Benjamin White. You obviously saw Marino dropping into midfield, Odegaard and Rice having a sense of a license to both drop and roam further forward. Zubamendi looked to split the two centre-backs to build as a trio, and you did have Saka and Eze holding that half space. Substitutes, or as Mikel Arteta calls them, finishers, played a massive impact against Aston Villa. Both managers made influential substitutions in the second half. Obviously, we added both Gyökeres and Trossard, who scored at half-time, in place of Marino and Eze, in which hindsight's a wonderful thing. Maybe Mikel Arteta would have, if he could go again, maybe wouldn't have started Odegaard just to keep Eze, who's finding his feet centrally, and maybe have went with Gyökeres from the jump versus Marino, who's done well. But it didn't work in the game. We had to make changes. And we did attack with fewer rotations compared to the first period. We did try to combine down the right-hand side. Odegaard did move further over to support this. You did see Saka and White begin to create some openings for teammates who crashed the box from the left. Gyökeres did make clever movements between Aston Villa's centre-backs, and you did have Calafiori, but ultimately it weren't well enough. And to be honest, it kind of reflects what we think we saw with our eyes in that, yes, we've just spoken about Marino, but it feels like we play more to a traditional striker's sense of strength, people, I should be saying. We play more to a traditional striker's strengths with Marino up front, and then it's completely opposites where Gyökeres, who is a traditional forward and a lethal hitman and a summer edition, we don't do such, people. We did deserve our equaliser through Trossard, and we did consistently progress play down the right-hand side in the final third. Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers had to recover and actually track all the way back as we was looking to isolate and overload Matson, people, which naturally would force Villa on occasion into a temporary back five. And indirectly between Saka and obviously Trossard on the other side, that did help us. And I do think maybe they wouldn't have shined individually. Obviously, Buendia done very well and got the winner. Bolgarde, forgive me, done well for Aston Villa, and Jadon Sancho tactically did well. So it was an interesting setup, people. And you know with Emre, that's what you're going to get. So there's plenty of food for thought.